morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining the second day of the School Leadership Matters Summit. We are very thankful that you are joining us today and for your time. My name is Gautam, and I'm the Director of Research at Global School Leaders. We are really excited to welcome you today. And before we begin the session, there are just few guidelines that I wanted to mention. Please select the interpretation option at the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred language to follow the discussion. The session is available in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. The session will last 60 minutes, which includes dedicated time for Q&A at the end of the session. Please use the Q&A feature to ask questions. The panelists will try and answer as many as possible. You can also use the Q&A feature to engage with other attendees or share your insights. As attendees, you will remain on mute throughout the session to avoid any background noise. And a gentle reminder to keep comments and questions respectful, ensuring a positive and productive environment. Now that we have this out of way, hello and welcome. We are thrilled to have educators from over 120 countries joining this summit, including school leaders, teachers, education officers, policymakers, researchers, donors, and many more. And today we are joined by an excellent panel. We are grateful to have Raman Sidhu, the CEO of Octava Foundation, to moderate this session. Raman has a deep interest in supporting investments across Asia region, supporting social innovation in education, student finance, and technology in education. She has spent more than 10 years in the practice of venture philanthropy, working with diverse foundations, impact investors, and social purpose organizations, and brings a lot of insights from these experiences to this discussion today. Thank you so much, Raman, for moderating this session. And I'm also very glad that Raman is joined by the leaders from four of our key partners: Anna from Centro Lemann, Steve Kariithi from Dignitas, Baidurya from Alokit, and Agustin from Varkey Foundation. So in this session today, we'll focus on the need to invest in professionalization of our school leaders and how ongoing professional development, clear performance standards, and support systems are vital for effective, resilient school leadership. I feel that we could not have a better group of people to discuss this. So over to Raman. Thank you, Raman, and everyone.
Hey, greetings, everyone. This is such an exciting conversation, and just following on from all the discourse that GEMS have engaged in on the professionalization and the report. It's an absolute privilege to be holding this discourse with all of you. Maybe to just get us started and for the benefit of the audience, could I request you to maybe speak a little bit about your very specific vantage and experience through which you'll be today speaking about the school leader professionalization conversation. So maybe we start with Anna and then we go clockwise.
Thank you, Raman. Hello, everyone. So I'm in charge of the Lemann Center, or Centro Lemann, here in Brazil. We started our programs 3 years ago. So we are finishing our pilot cycle now with very good results. Throughout those 3 years, we trained more than 3,000 leaders, school leaders, administrators from more than 60 municipalities in 3 states throughout Brazil. We also supported some studies and research about school leadership, and also applied research to develop tools that could support those leaders in their daily work. And we are now about to refine our operational model. And I think I'll leave to talk more about it later. But not only we will be training school leaders, but also leaders at the system level and also at the political level.
Thank you, Anna. Steve, can I bring you in?
Thank you, Raman. Hello, everyone. So, Dignitas works in Kenya, and our focus has been working in the marginalized communities. And we've been doing this work over the past 16 years. So over the past 16 years, our focus in those communities has been primarily the low-cost community schools, even though we've worked with a few public schools in the same spaces. In this period, we've worked with over 7,500 teachers with a reach of about 500,000 learners. And our focus, the context of our work is most of the teachers that work in these schools do not have any level of professional development as teachers. So when we go in, we do our baselines. A lot of times we find that they are scoring less than 5% on core teacher competencies. And we walk through them through training and coaching. And the outcome has been during the training period, we see that they gain what we call mastery level, which is about 70% gains. Thank you very much. I'll pass it back to you, Raman.
Thank you. Augustine, can I bring you in?
Yeah, thank you, Raman. I'm very glad to be joining this panel today with good colleagues. I'm Agustin from the Varkey Foundation. I'm based in Argentina, but we work all across Latin America, training school principals. Now also, like we started 8 years ago. Last week, we celebrated the 8th anniversary, training school principals. We were called by the Minister of Education to start a program for principals when in Argentina we didn't have anything of this. Like all the training was for teachers, and we started working with principals. And we love what we do. We realize that they can transform schools in a very good manner, and it's a key character in the school system that I will say has been kind of abandoned for a few years. So for the past 8 years, we have been developing different programs that we adapted to each region from Mexico to Argentina, in many countries, trying to respond to the local needs, but also bringing an international approach that opened the school to the world in order to be transformed. I will share more during the panel, but we have been training school principals, teachers, and we are now also working with a community of education ministers and secretaries of the region.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Augustine. Baidurya, can I bring you in to introduce yourself and your vantage point, please?
Sure, Raman. Hello, everyone. I'm from Alokit, and we are based in India. We started off in 2020, and since then, we have worked with over 5,000 school leaders from 8 different government partners, potentially impacting up to 500,000 students across India. One of the things in India we see is that typically a school leader is a teacher on one day, and the next day she gets promoted to a school leader. And through no fault of hers, she's not able to perform her duties well because there's little or no support for that. And that's where we at Alokit come in to really understand their context, support them, and handhold them to perform their roles in a proper way. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. Over to you, Raman.
That's fantastic. And Baidurya, you mentioned a really important point of context and hand-holding, right? And really taking this journey with school leaders on the professionalization. And all of you probably have already gone through, and I'm sure the participants and the audience as well have looked through the GEM report. It speaks about the 4 dimensions essential for school leadership, right? We're speaking about enabling them to set expectations, enabling them to be able to focus on learning, foster collaboration, and also be able to develop their people. Assumption is the parent and the educators. But as we help them orient towards these dimensions, maybe share with us to kick us off. What are some of the key areas that one needs to focus on to be able to develop these orientations? And what are the different approaches that you guys are taking around training, preparing, developing, hand-holding, contextualizing of your own respective training and mentoring programs for school leaders. So just to kick us off, maybe we start backwards this time. Baidurya, do you want to start first, and then I'll just take it to the next person. Thank you.
Sure, Raman. So I think one of the things that we see that while we develop training programs for school leaders is, do we may have a certain kind of framework in mind that these are certain competencies, these are certain things that a school leader should know and be able to do. What we initially sort of started missing out is, where does the trickle down stop? Right. So, for example, you train school leader on X and you want an ultimate student outcome Y. But between that X and Y, there's a little bit of teacher training, there's a little bit of parent engagement, there's a lot of other factors, right? So one of the things that we really do, try to do in our programs is actually see that right from the training to the student outcomes, how does the trickle down happen? What kind of barriers or challenges that trickle down may face, and how do we address that? So to give you an example, one of the things early on we saw that when a school leader is expected to go back to the school and train or communicate something to the teachers, they were unable to do that because they were never trained as facilitators. They never did that kind of job. So we kind of introduced a module within our training which solely focused on how they can go and communicate that to teachers. So then the second thing we realized is that even when we gave that, they were not able to train them because they were not good facilitators. So then what we started doing is giving them a packet where they can literally show 1 or 2 videos and ask these 2-3 questions to facilitate that space. Yeah, to sort of able to sort of break things down to that kind of small bits and sort of see what the challenges, and then kind of designing the program is something we have seen really work in terms of training, developing the training programs.
That's a great reminder on kind of identifying pertinently not just the dimensions that you want to orient to, but actually what is holding, not making those dimensions come to life in the classrooms or in the practice of transfer from knowledge to practice. Steve, do you want to bring in from Dignitas in Kenya?
Sure. Thank you. So in the Kenyan context where we, and in the specific spaces where we work, the majority of the school leaders do not have any training as teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them just, it is out of passion to serve the children in their communities that they set up these schools. So one of the things, so we focus on a couple of bits just to help really equip them to deliver on this. So we work with them around making a school improvement plan so that they just know these are the organizational pieces of running a school. It could have a financial component. How do we sustain this? But then we also work with them to get a sense, to help them build instructional leadership that is supportive for their teachers. And then the other thing we focus on is also, how do we give them the tools that they need to ensure that there's a shift in classroom culture, and the culture inside the classroom is actually conducive for learning. And the final piece we do is, how do we make sure that there's learner engagement so that the children feel and the teachers and the parents are all engaging in this community that is a school. And one of the unique things that we've ended up doing is we don't just train, but we also have key coaching elements. So with the coaching dimension is we will literally go into the schools and sit down with the school leaders and help them create the school improvement plan. We will walk into the classrooms and tell them these are the things that you need to support your teachers on, and just help them reflect on how the teachers are delivering lessons. And so that way they're empowered to run the schools, and they learn directly from our coaches who are all experienced and trained teachers. That has been how we've delivered on the work. Yeah.
That's how you've done it. And Steve, maybe share a little bit about when you, are these coaching and reflection sessions done through observations? Like they're coaches who are observing and giving specific feedback? Is that the model?
Exactly. So we literally walk into the classrooms, observe a lesson, And each coaching round has a coaching focus. So if, let's say, we are working with the teachers on lesson planning, that will be the focus. So we literally sit in the classroom, see how they do that. And then after the lesson, we take some time to give them feedback and just to reflect on how do they use the lesson plan, how do they apply it. So it's very practical and it's done in school.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Anna, can I bring you in from 60 plus districts and research? You straddling practice as an implementation as well as the research and evidence base. Maybe speak to us about what are your pedagogical approaches to training and developing school leaders?
So, Raman, after 3 years training the school leaders ourselves, we figured out that in such a huge country like Brazil, we had to use what we learned through those 3 years to support departments of education so they could have their own policies and programs to support and train their school leaders. So what we've been doing now is, first of all, helping some other departments of education to design 4 main policies. The first one being the school leadership framework. So actually, I'll tell you that maybe today, I woke up with an even stronger sense that humanity is very confused on what good leadership should look like, right? And I think that the same thing happens at the school level. So school leaders don't really know what is expected from them, what their main responsibilities should be, or how they have to, manage all the responsibilities that are under them. So what happened is that each one of the school leaders here in Brazil, they act in a way that they believe is the best. So we have like school leaders that act more like the janitors of the school. So they take care of all the maintenance, the building, the infrastructure. Some others, they are very good in community organizing. So they organize events with parents and, neighbors. Some are very good in taking care of the community, of the school community. So they are very caring. And some are very concerned about all the pedagogical approaches and the learning itself. So we are trying to help the departments of education to really build in a very collaborative process their school leadership framework to really give clarity to the responsibilities, to the competencies, to the profiles, and based on that, the second policy is the selection or accreditation policy, right? Because it's not worth it to train people that don't have the basic skills or even the aspiration to be a leader. As Steve said, some of them are like good teachers that are appointed leaders, but they are good teachers, but maybe they might not be good leaders. At least in Brazil, 60% of the school leaders are politically appointed. So they are appointed, but there's no technical or behavioral criteria in the selection process, robust selection process. It's just because they are friends of the mayor or friends of the city councilor. And so we have to really ensure that the best people are selected through very specific and robust criteria. The third policy is the professional development itself. And of course, the idea is to help the departments of education so they can tailor to design, in a very customized way, according to their demands, context, and of course, the stage of each of the careers of each leader. So those who are, candidates to enter, to become a school leaders, those who has just become a school leader, and those who are, in a career for a long time and those who have to develop some very specific skills. And the third policy is the support, this coaching support that Steve was mentioning. So how to train the supervisors at the departments of education so they can be very good coaches, people that are going, they are visiting schools in a very frequent way, right? To not only understand what's going on in the schools, to ensure the quality of the processes, the quality of the leadership, but also to support those leaders that sometimes feel so lonely, with so much to have, under their responsibility. So it's really trying to create some cohesion between those who are in the departments of education and those who are in the schools, to really make sure that they will work with a lot of alignment and cohesion to pursue common goals and fortunately, achieve them.
Yeah. Augustine, can you hear me? I can't see you on my screen. I'm assuming you're still here. Okay,
I'm
fantastic.
back,
Fantastic.
I lost the connection and at the middle of Anna.
Okay, I'm glad that you're still here. And I actually raised a very good point around, and it speaks to the recommendations of the GEM report as well around the select, develop, and recognize frame that they have shared in their report. And you working with the Argentinian government, setting up a training program for the school leaders. Are you seeing similarities of the way you're designing the frame, as Anna was mentioning, and how might your frame be different or additive?
Yeah, the one point to share is that we have been collaborating with Anna and with other organizations that we work behind the scenes to share what we are doing and to replicate. And so we learn a lot from each other. And across the ones that we are working with school leaders, there is a nice community where we share and build a lot together. I will say, like, we have our own framework on training, but thinking on your question at the beginning, how to prepare for what is the need today, I would say that we have different approaches and we work in different countries, but also we work in different states in Argentina, for example, and what you can do in one is different of what is needed in the other one. So there's a special need on taking care of customizing the program for each region, at the end is for each school. So there is both, something that you can have broadly, and then you have to double click and understand the local community. And Steve was sharing something very similar. But my answer to your question, if we go behind, is the last challenge in the schools for us is to build trust. What a principal should do is to build trust. Build trust with the teachers, build trust with the community, with parents, and with the kids. And that is what we are missing today. Trust in our school leaders and in the school system itself. We don't trust enough that we can transform through education. So we work a lot, like, in order to build trust. How we build trust in schools, because also the position of a school leader is a very isolated one. Like, it's a very lonely position, because teachers, you have many teachers in school, but the principal is the only one. And we are not used to working together across different principals in a neighborhood. Or it's happening, but it's not happening everywhere. So we focus on how to build trust. And in order to build trust, we develop a model that is called biceps. That is the virtues that you need to build trust in schools. Biceps, like the muscle.
Yeah,
so you have to
biceps as the biceps.
Exactly. You have to exercise it, because if you stop, you lose it.
Right.
I will share later, like, which are, each letter is like benevolence, integrity, competence, excellence, presence, and service. And we can talk later, I do more about that.
To the detail.
Building trust allows a school to be an innovative school, to try new things. If there is at the end is the culture or the climate of the school that we need to work on. that a good culture will allow teachers to try new things, to work together, to collaborate. If there is a culture of jealous or people like not trusting to each other, you don't want to try anything different. So we think that it's something key to work, and it's those hard things to see, but very important to define a school.
That's fantastic. And I like the frame that you're using, a set of muscles to build trust for school leaders. That's a very interesting frame. You've all alluded to the context that you're working in and how you have to kind of frame your very specific problem with your specific school leaders, and there's diversity in the infrastructure they have available, the places that they're coming from, the initial capacity that they may have or the lack of it. For example, Steve was speaking about the passion that they come in with and how you're harnessing that passion because they may not come in with a lot of competency or the capabilities per se. I think what would be most useful for the participants would also be, and the audience, to really understand from you from some examples of how you're contextualizing. Like, what were some of the unique problems that you saw that you could not have picked up something that from another location, but you had to really contextualize or tailor make the professionalization development, whether it's the coaching or whether it was a specific module within the training program, or extending the way that you were delivering training programs had to change. So maybe speak to us about those very practical examples where you had to either innovate or really kind of customize the training programs. Steve, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. Thank you. I think for us, one of the experiences we've had is I'll actually share two. So one is, how do you use local materials, right? Because our context is like low cost, under-resourced spaces and schools, but how do you use local materials and integrate them into learning? So these are like bottles, plastic cups, and just things that you can get into the community. And we found that teachers suddenly were able to realize, oh, I can actually turn this into a chart, or I can add this into what we call talking walls, so that if I fill these spaces in the classrooms, each part is speaking to a lesson that I would want the kids to learn. But the other bit that we have done, especially in the context of under-resourced spaces that are supposed to develop kids, and I mean learners, and prepare and equip them with 21st century skills. How do we do that? And one of the key pieces that we've ended up developing has been the tech piece, ed tech, right, in these spaces. And so we have a program called Lead Now, and it's basically an app that has 12 modules. And we are trying to figure out, how do we make good internet connectivity? How do we make sure that this works where there's low power and gadgets and stuff like that? So what we've ended up doing is making sure, let's say, our apps have offline capability. So you can just download and you're able to work on the stuff. We've introduced videos so that then they're not text heavy and stuff like that, so that teachers are able to interact with them. But we've also incorporated local teachers in helping develop those solutions. So as the teacher interacts with it, they are getting advice from a teacher who has worked in similar spaces.
Right. Steve, thank you for sharing that example. Those are a few
examples. Yeah.
Anna, do you want to come in to maybe offer an example, and then we'll go to Alokit?
Sure. One of the pillars of was it my turn?
Yes, Anna, please.
So one of the pillars of our program is it's really empowering those school leaders to think about equity in a very serious way. So we invite them to understand who are the students that are struggling the most, to really see what they usually don't see. Those who, because of socioeconomic constraints or because of personal characteristics, are really struggling to feel well in the school environment or to really cope with the tasks, the classroom tasks, or are having difficulties to learn, and to really understand what the factors would be that are affecting those students, and to try and design specific solutions for specific problems and not really trying to standardize everything. So we have this interesting approach that we call the transformation lab, and we teach those leaders to try to understand their context in a very deeper way, in a much deeper way, and try to understand those problems, the causes of those problems, and try to design solutions and test them in collaboration with different stakeholders within the community, the school community, to really address those very specific things that they have in their context. Because in Brazil, we have a very diverse group of schools, more than 200,000 schools. Some of them are in the middle of the Amazon forest. Some of them are in large urban centers. So it's impossible for us to design solutions for all of those contexts and specificities that they struggle with. So the idea is to empower the school leaders for them to tailor their own solutions.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's extremely useful lens that you're offering right now, Anna, which is, let's empower them to solve for the challenges that they feel, and let's enable them with the thinking process, the thought process, the solutioning process, so to speak. Very encouraging. Before I go to Baidurya and Agustin, I just wanted to remind all the participants, we will be opening up the floor for questions. So the audience, if you have any specific questions that I should be asking the panelists, there's a great treasure trove here of insights. Please do feed in your question into the chat. And then the GSL team is helping me look through them, and then we'll try to ask as many as we can. Baidurya and Agustin, instead of maybe focusing on the context question, because you've addressed that in both of your initial answers as well. Maybe let's shift the frame a little bit, right? Which is, we are all of us, most of us are operating in low middle income constructs. And the recommendations that we have right now from the GEM report, and I'm still kind of trying to process this to say, how do we enable this with all the context that they've offered, to say the funding is declining, the resources are declining to support this work, learning outcomes are declining at the same time. But we are saying, let's up our game in our investment in school leaders, right? So somewhere some trade-offs will need to be made in the system. Maybe speak to us a little bit about your own opinions about where are these trade-offs around where investment should go, and how school leadership can really be prioritized in our systems. So maybe starting with Baidurya and then passing on to Agustin from there.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Raman. So I don't always see this as a trade-off. So, like in India, what we see that oftentimes training do happen of school leaders, but they are very ad hoc, one time. There's no continuity. So there is a budget, right? There is some investment done to ensure that they receive some training. But I think the larger job is to ensure there's alignment within the system, right? Like, it's not that one person in the department decides to do XYZ training and it's done and it's forgotten. but there's a clear goal of the department that, okay, this is what we want to achieve. And thus we want to train the school leaders on certain things, right? I think that's the more important part, is to ensure there's a systemic alignment within the department. And right from the top level bureaucrat to the school principal and the teachers, they know what are they gunning towards. I think the second thing is, at the end of the day, what we have seen in our programs, that the most important thing is to keep the child at the center, right? Like, no amount of training or professional development is worth it if it's not ultimately impacting the students. And school leaders get it, right? School leaders are always, happy to do additional work if they see that whatever the efforts they're putting in is actually contributing to the children's development. So bringing that into the picture is very important. So, in a way, our programs also evolved that way. Initially, we used to sort of train school leaders on a set of competencies. Later on, we realized it's important to define what outcomes they're gunning towards in terms of children, and then sort of see how those competencies sort of contribute to it. So I feel, yeah, these are kind of the couple of things that one should.
The couple of things, and such a great prompt, Baidurya. Congratulations on that, and that's really kind of shifting my frame from trade-offs to optimization through alignment. If we can minimize wastage, we may not need to do trade-offs, right? That's such a great reminder, and I hope everybody that's working in the frames of resourcing is hearing this loud and clear from all of you. Agustin, how are you looking at this? Like, resourcing, investments are going down. How are we still going to prioritize school leadership? How are we going to invest more?
Yeah. First, let me make a comment of the question before that you shared with Anna, because we started working in Argentina for 2.5 years before starting in other countries. And I remember, like, very well the first time we did a program in Ecuador, a training in Ecuador with our Argentinian team. And after the first day of the training, where we traveled to another country to implement a program that was successful in Argentina, but we didn't know the context really of Ecuador. And I remember very well the excitement of the team after the first day, saying, like, look, it's working. So the things that we used to work there works here. Because of course we need to contextualize, but in many things of the school, it's the same in the Philippines, in Argentina, in Portugal, like, and there are many things that we can work together because we are working in a system that are quite similar with. So I think that is an opportunity to collaborate and to work across the world more. To the question of resources, 2 ideas. First, I think we have a concrete challenge of autonomy in the schools, that if we give more autonomy to the schools, I believe that we will have a more efficient system. So we need to trust more in the schools than in the heads of the system trying to make all the decisions. And once we share those, like the decision-making process to the schools and the resources, they spend it much better than what we expect to happen. And in that way, thinking on the best schools that I have visited are the ones that are designing the professional development inside the school. Like, when you see a school principal managing or promoting the professional development of the teacher, it changed 360 the life of the school, and the engagement and the community, and the principals knows very well what their teacher needs, so they can develop. Of course, there are some things that is good to bring them from outside the school, but a school that can develop their own training program, it's more focused on the needs, and it's more efficient, and it's cheaper in some way, and so I think it's an optimization of the resources that we have today.
Yeah, and behavior shifts behavior, right? The point that you're making around school leaders kind of prioritizing and kind of leading by example of really coaching and developing their people, and that can shift behavior. There are a couple of questions in the chat, and I wanted to move to the questions. One of those seem to have been answered, but one question here is around who are the allies? When we are tackling this complex issue of leadership in our education systems and taking a deeper lens on the school leadership, who are our allies? who are the barriers, or what is the barriers as well? So maybe we go around and speak to that a little bit. Steve, can I bring you in first, and then we'll go to Anna?
Sure. In Africa, we have a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that is
I think
very
now
true.
we have that saying everywhere, thanks to Africa.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very true. I'm sure, like you just mentioned, in the different contexts that we work in. And from my experience, so what we've done is like, how do we even help work with school leaders so that they engage the parents and the parents feel involved? But one of the other interesting things we've done, we have a process which we call Voice. That we conduct at the end of every training session. And in Voice, we look at the data. So we bring the school leaders from the area that we have been working with. We bring in government education officials, and we just bring in any other player within that space. And we literally look at the data. And like Anna said, just looking at the context and going deep, and we begin to realize within this specific area, this locality, within these schools, this is what the data is saying, right? But now we are involving all the players that are critical to that, so that then they can figure out what are the solutions together. And so that's where we found that we've been able to build relationships between government officials and school leaders, and then any other player, whether it's a parent or someone else, so that then it becomes a village that is educating this child. Yeah.
You are constructing a village. You are constructing a village. Anna, who's in this village?
Data-driven village.
A data-driven village, that too. Anna, what does this village look like for you as you think about school leadership and really progressing this agenda forward in the locations that you're operating in?
So first of all, I think that I'm very glad that with this new GEM report, because finally the school leaders are having all the attention that they deserve.
Absolutely.
We've been about teachers for a long time, but what can teachers do if they don't have the support, the technical, the moral support, the financial support of the leaders, right? But I would say that not only the school leaders, because they are in one of the sides of the decision-making chain, but also the school leaders, they depend on decisions they are made at the system level. And they depend also in the decisions that the political leaders make. So it's very important. And that's why we've been shifting a little bit on what we've been doing here in Brazil to also train the political leaders. So we are going to start next year a training process with the mayors and the secretariats of education. Because if they don't know what their role should be, if they don't know what decisions they have to make, even the painful, the brave ones, and how to make them, if they don't really prioritize education and try to protect education from political influences, external influences, or all those trends that come with the silver bullets that now, mayor, you're going to buy this and all your problems are going to be solved. So we really have to empower those mayors or governors as champions of education and knowing what they have to do from their sides. And of course, those at system level, the administrators also, they have to really understand how to create the operational conditions, pedagogical conditions for the school leaders to be supported in their very big challenges in their daily lives at the school level. So I would say that the village contains a lot of leaders that also have to be trained.
Thank you, Anna, for that. And as we shift into the last kind of 7 to 8 minutes of our conversation, Baidurya and Agustin, can I request you to share, beyond the current solving of school leadership and professionalization, what else we should be considering for school leaders if we need to future-proof the school leadership constructs and school leadership in the changing world, in the world that is shifting beneath our feet at a speed that we are barely catching up with, and the crisis around climate and violence literally on our doorsteps. What are some of the other dimensions that we need to bring into this conversation to make this future-proof? Agustin, let me come to you first and then followed by Baidurya.
Wow, it's a challenging question.
Of
But
course.
it's a really good one. I think, like, as Anna was saying, like, we need to put this on the agenda much more to like highlight what they are doing, highlight or zoom in with the figure of principals. I would say they need to be in some way in touch with the world and looking into the future. So we need to allow them to be able to see what is coming and bring that to the schools. And in order to be able to understand the world, what is coming, what is new, the look into the future, the first thing that you need is time. So if you are in the middle of a fire all day, there is no time to think, there is no time to reflect and to connect with the world. I remember very well we invited 6 years ago Tom Friedman to a conference, and he said that a phrase that it was the teachers, but it's for the principals, needs to understand the world they are training kids for. So if they don't understand what is happening in the world today, that it's changing a lot, they are not able to prepare the kids for that world. So I think we need to give them the possibility, the opportunity to be connected with the world, with the future. And for that, they need time. They need to reduce some paperwork and to have some more teamwork in order to be doing that. Because it's easy to get into the things that you need to solve today. And it's hard to get time for the long-term thing. So we need to help them prioritize that time in their agendas. And then the other thing that we need is to be working more as a team. Like we are not, our education system was thought as a team, but it's not working as a team today. So I think we need principals, ministers, and teachers working together. Like we have so many fights in between those roles that one criticizing another. It's not against, it's all together looking to the future.
We need to be a collective. What a great reminder. Baidurya, can I bring you into, if you were to look into a crystal ball and suggest what we should focus for the future, what would those be?
I completely agree with what Augustine just mentioned. I think, for future proofing the world and for school leaders to think like that, they have to start thinking about the future, but they just always live here and now, right? And just as he mentioned, I think it's just about how do we ensure that they have the mental and the cognitive capacity to think beyond their day-to-day administrative tasks, right? And one of the things that what we have seen is we have to like kind of decentralized decision making. We cannot just have that one person who is in charge of everything, but can we have the school leadership teams consisting of multiple people where decisions are taken by more than one person, so that one person can at least start thinking about the future, what's best for the children, what's best for the teachers. That I think is one. And the second thing what we have been also sort of doing recently is, technology has kind of democratized access to knowledge, right? And I think AI is going to kind of democratize access to a very smart friend. So can we sort of introduce these things to them so that even if they don't have the time or the bandwidth to talk to other people, to think beyond their day-to-day, can they sort of start using these emerging technologies to sort of support them in the work? So yeah, these are kind of my 2 cents on this.
That's fantastic. And we are kind of wrapping up. I might want to take one more question since we have 2 to 3 minutes. There's a question specifically for Agustin. What does it mean, trust in schools? Any suggestions to how to develop it? So very briefly, in gist, Agustin, if I could bring you in to answer, what do you mean by trust?
Yeah, I will go to the model directly because it's the best answer I have. Like, to build trust is that you can trust in your teachers, teachers trust in the principal. And we say that biceps is the way to build trust, because benevolence, integrity, competence. Integrity, if you don't say the truth and you say sometimes something, you change it, people will not trust in you. So you have to say what it is. Benevolence, if you're not looking for the good for others, they will not trust in you. Competence, if you don't know what you need to know, if you are not competent as a principal, they will not trust in you. And then excellence is in order to look for the best for you and for others and for the school. That promotes trust. If you see someone that is always trying to bring the best to our school, I will trust you. Presence, the P, presence. If you are not there, I will not trust you. Like, you cannot manage a school through WhatsApp. You have to be there. You have to be with your teachers, with your kids. And at the end, service. We are there in order to help and support others. If I see that you are looking to serve others, that your mission is to serve, to make others happy, I will trust you.
That's a fantastic frame for us to close this on, and all of us to aspire to that framework around trusted school leaders, trusting the school leaders, and helping them to build trust with the communities that they're working in and for. That brings us to the close. I'd love to pass it back to Gautam, and I really want to thank Anna, Steve, Baidurya, Agustin. I've had such a interesting afternoon sitting here dialing in from India. Speaking to all of you from where you are, and I'm taking away so many different insights that I will be coming to GSL with. So, thank you so very much to the GSL team for hosting this. Handing it back to you, Gautam.
Thank you, Raman. Thank you very much for moderating this session. And again, thank you, Anna, Steve, Baidurya, and Agustin for your time and participation. And also thank you, everyone, for joining us today in the first session of day 2. I hope you will join us in our next session as well, which will be a master class on designing for lasting impact. Thank you again, and see you in the next one.